talk about the difference between content marketing and advertising. And I'm really super excited about this because I haven't really thought about it a lot until this year. And one of my big mindset shifts was um, I have a degree in journalism, and I'm a great writer when it comes to editorial kind of things. Not so great when it comes to marketing and advertising. And so one of my goals this year has been to up level my game and be able to market more effectively and be able to connect better. And, the flip side of that is I didn't used to enjoy selling. I do now, but um, being able to write sales content without sounding salesy was really important to me. And, you see the way everybody does it, and everybody has their system that they follow. And some people say, hey, you need to be putting a call to action in every piece of whatever you send out. And I have to tell you, those are the people that I unsubscribe from in my email. It's like 2 or 3 times a day, they're selling to me. And it's like, I might want what you're interested in, but what I really want to know is like who you are and what's the value that you're bringing. And so I've been taking some different digital marketing courses and certifications, and I've been studying with Jim Edwards, who wrote the um, Secrets to Copywriting. And he has helped really shift my mindset and my attitude towards the whole idea of what's the difference between content marketing and advertising, and kind of like, do they overlap? So what's the big question that we want to answer today? And for me, it's like, how is content marketing different in the online space? Because I think initially when we all think about advertising, we think about television, radio, billboards, Times Square, and all of the ads that are out there. And I think in the online space it's a little bit differently, because a lot of online business owners don't use those mediums because they're not cost effective for their business. And so how do we advertise and how do we add value as we're going through the marketing process? So I want to give you three things that we're going to talk about today, and feel free, to stop me, ask me any questions if this doesn't make sense. There's a lot of ways that advertising and content marketing is different, but I think one of the biggest ways is that in advertising, you're talking to your potential buyer. It's a one-way stream of information versus talking with your clients, potential clients, through social media, content marketing. So your goal is still sales through both of those mediums, advertising and content marketing, but the way that you approach it is going to be a little bit different. So the second way that we're going to talk about today is advertising tends to be more general than specific. And in your content marketing, you want to be more specific. And then thirdly, your advertising is business driven when you look at the flow versus peer driven when you're using content marketing. So let's kind of dig in and talk about that a little bit. So again, advertising is a one-way conversation. You're not expecting to have a dialogue when you're running an ad on social media. You're expecting people to jump in and say yes to your call to action. And so you might have an ad that's driving people to your Facebook group, right? You want them to say, yes, I want to join, I want to be a part of your group. Or maybe your call to action is a freebie that you're just wanting to get somebody into. Maybe it's a challenge, or maybe it's a free ebook that you have, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a dollar-driven call to action, but when people run ads, they have a very specific something that they want their audience to do. And sometimes it is buying a paid thing. It might be going to a webinar, which will then lead to the paid thing. It might be that intermediate step because maybe they don't know you and you need them to get to know who you are, build a little buy, know, like, and trust factor before you actually make that offer. So the goal in your advertising is to focus on compelling your people to buy from you by talking about the benefits of what you're selling. And one of the things that I see online businesses do is they talk about all of the inclusions of what they're going to get. People don't care about the inclusion, they care about the benefit or the result they're going to get by buying your product or service. And so one of the things that Jim Edwards says is whatever you are going to say, try and say it with 33% less words. And so that's really hard because you're already limited to the number of words you can put in a social media ad or in a Google ad, right? And so you want to be really succinct. You want to be really clear about the problem you're solving for your potential client. And you want to just hammer home what those benefits are. You know, a happier life, a healthier lifestyle, a better mindset, whatever it is that is addressing the problem that you're solving, you want to be really clear so they don't have to ask any questions. They just want to say, yeah, I need that. And they're going to click that button. Content marketing, on the other side, is about creating connection and building engagement and, you know, all the touchy feely, get to know more about me, um, adding value to them. That's where your nurturing is coming in. You want to show up on a consistent basis. You want to be on brand with what your messaging is. You want to invite them into your world, right? You want them to engage with you by commenting, by sharing, by liking and loving, right? So you want to get them to engage because that's how you measure if your content marketing is working versus in advertising, you can look at how many times your cash register is going ka-ching, 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 right? And so this is a little bit of a longer process, but this is the process also where you can gain a lot of insights into who it is that you're serving and what their needs are, because you can gauge that by how they're responding and you can gauge that by what information they're responding with. And so you can gain some great audience insights that way as well. The next way that we want to think about this is advertising is very general. And so I liken it to um, this morning I was thinking about throwing spaghetti to the wall and seeing what sticks, but really it's more like net fishing. If you think about net fishermen in Africa going out with these big nets and, you know, they pull in the big fish, all the little fish get away. So it's kind of its own filtering system. You know, advertising is a numbers game. When you get out there, you're not going to hit all of your ideal clients with what your ads are. And especially if you're just using the filters that are inside of Ads Manager, you only have so much control. So you know going into advertising that it's a numbers game, that not everybody who sees your ad is going to be your ideal client, but certainly within the large number of people that your ad is being served to, you're going to be able to convert some of those and make an ROI on your ads. So content marketing, on the other hand, it's more about research, right? You want to know how to get in front of who you want to reach. And so you want to be really clear about who your ideal avatar is and the problem that you're solving. You want to know about their values. You want to know what their life is like. You want to understand why that problem matters to them and how their life would change. So when you know that data and you understand that data about your client, you can provide the type of information that they want to consume in the way that they want to consume it. I shared with you earlier that I've been doing this mastermind with Jim Edwards, and he gives you different tools for creating different types of posts. And so I've been experimenting with that. And I have recently discovered that my tribe loves checklists. They love these little checklists that say, do these 5 things to get this result. I get better engagement with those, and they're faster to create than a lot of the other things that I put my time into. So, you want to know, do your people want videos? Do they want checklists? Do they like those long, vulnerability kind of posts that share a lot of who you are? Where are you getting, the most bang for your buck when you're looking at your stats, when you're looking at the data that you're pulling in? And so then you can invest more time into creating the things that are really um, resonating with them, and do fewer things that are not. Maybe you've been blogging and you're getting no movement from your blog. Is it because they're not interested in what you're blogging about? Or is it because you're not pointing people back to their blog, to your blog, so they know that that's what you're doing? And so a strategy in content marketing is always, of course, to repurpose, but not everybody really understands how they could do that. So you could do a little checklist for your group, right? And talk about the importance of XYZ. And then at the end, you could maybe invite them to learn more about that by going to your blog where you've done a full article that addresses that. And that's a great way, and a very non-salesy way, to drive people to your website so they can learn more about you. Because once they're on your site and they see more of what you're about, they're going to be curious and they're going to look through what your services are, and that type of thing. So that kind of leads us to what we've been talking a little bit about with advertising. The business drives the flow of who sees it, right? They go in and they say, I want this type of people to see my content, and bam, it goes out. Where content marketing, you're relying on other people to like your stuff, to share your stuff, to comment on your stuff. And the more valuable your information appears to be to the algorithm, it will then start keeping it up at the top and sharing it with other people, outside of maybe the 15 or 20 that it sees your stuff. I had to laugh the other day. I got a notification from Facebook, and it said something like, these 5 people just posted something, maybe you missed it. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I went in and looked. They were indeed people who were on my friends list, but I had no idea who they were because I don't think I'd ever seen their content before. And so, you just never know what's going to happen with that algorithm. And so, having a blend of paid advertising and organic content marketing, I think, is always a good idea. And there's different ways that you can, have a low ad spend to be able to get out in front of another audience. So you're constantly building your network, right? You're casting a wider net, but then also being able to be more clear and specific in what your content marketing efforts are all about. Because once you get some really great fans who are referring you and sharing your stuff, that's going to be a game changer in your business as well. So I want to talk a little bit about, just the time frame that this happens. So with your ads, they're going to be more like a microwave, right? You're going to put your ad in and you're going to start seeing some kind of traffic, at least, even if they're not clicking all the way through. You're going to see some pretty immediate results to what's happening. Your content marketing is more like your crockpot slow cooker kind of effect, where it's going to take a little bit longer time for that to monetize for you. But keeping in mind that, your goal for each of those types of activities is to bring sales to your business. I mean, why else would we spend our time on those types of activities if we weren't hoping to get some kind of payoff for it? So The best type of content out there is going to be a demo. If you can do a demo of something that you sell or a product that you sell, you're always going to get your best response rate from that. It can be short and to the point, but when you can demonstrate and they can see what that transformation is, what that end result is, it is going to give you a higher level of engagement and impact and help you convert a little bit faster. So when you think about nurturing, you've got people who are on two different paths, right? You've got a fast track and you've got that slow track. And so you want to make sure that you have something to back up your advertising efforts and your content marketing efforts, where you're leading them along that particular buyer's journey path. You don't want to slow your people down who are on a fast track and stick them into this slow train, for your nurturing. So make sure that you are segmenting your email lists and that you're very clear about where these people came from and how they got to you, what their particular interest was. And even with your people who are just being nurtured by you want to know, where are they at in this process? So you can make sure that you're providing products at the right time for them. Because, you guys have heard me say this before, the right product, the right message, the right offer at the right time. And so you want to make sure that your timing is always correct. So marketing is partially about training our people to say yes to us. And so there are several techniques that we can use to help them say yes. And if you think about everything that we do in life is a sale, and a sale is nothing more than an invitation, right? And so anytime I invite you to something and you say yes, I made a sale, right? And so for those of us who were told that, it takes X number of no's to get to your yes. When I sold Mary Kay, they used to say it will take 35 no's before you get a yes. And so I was always doing my little hashtag, getting closer and closer to that yes. Well, my yes was more like 42 no's to one yes. And so it's like, okay, you got to know your numbers, you've got to know where you're at. But if you think about it, you can invite someone to get on a 15-minute connect call. Hey, I just want to know more about your business. I love referring other businesses, but I can't do that unless I know a little bit more about you. You can spend 15 minutes a couple times a week with people, learn more about them, and all of a sudden you have this great referral partner. And so that kind of changes the dynamics, and they think, oh, they really do care about me. And so then they might not be ready to work with you, but they might have a conversation with someone else and they're going to say, did you know that Brandy does this? And you need this? Can I make an introduction? Right? It's a beautiful way to get small wins. So if someone says yes, look at that. Yes, I made a sell. I made a win, right? If you're giving away a freebie, somebody says yes, wonderful. You're able to add value. So anytime you can use a tool to make them click on your offer, on your invitation, it's making it easier for them to say yes when you're doing something that you're monetizing, because they're already used to saying yes to what you're offering or inviting them to do. So I wasn't going to talk about this today, but I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about. Jim talks about a process called a stealth close. And so, oftentimes people say, click here to register, that's not really compelling, right? But if you've talked about a problem that you're solving, you've given a checklist on how to overcome XYZ, you could simply say something like, by the way, did you know that I'm teaching a free class on this on Friday at noon? If you'd like to know more about this, you can, grab your seat here, right? Or you could say, oh, wait, before I forget, did you know that I have this going on? I have this new membership site. You want to know more about this? Join me for this, right? And so there's a lot of ways that you can make that invitation without it sounding like buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. And that way, you're training them. You're getting used to putting links out there. You're getting used to them clicking on them. And so that way, when you're ready to go into a full-blown sales cycle, you're going to get a better response just by showing how much you care and by providing value along the way. So we talked about three things today. We talked about talking to versus talking with as you look at your advertising and content marketing efforts. We looked at how advertising is much more general in its flow of who you're talking to versus being very specific when you're looking at growing your Facebook group. You don't want just massive, massive numbers in there. You want the number of the right kind of people in your group. There was a group that I was in, gosh, it was like last year, and she ran a contest to get people to invite their friends and contacts into the group. And she grew her group pretty quickly. But when the dust settled, there were a lot of people in there who weren't her ideal client. And then she said, what do I do now? Is it okay to disinvite them from my group? And I'm like, well, it's your group. You can. But she felt really icky about that. And so, there's some Facebook groups out there that have tens of thousands of people, and they are probably monetizing them because they've got the numbers. And so there's a percentage that are their ideal client. That's a lot to manage. That's a lot to keep up with. And because I'm an introvert, having a smaller, well-defined group of people is much easier for me, especially energetically, to be able to manage and work with. And so you need to think about, how do I work? How do I like to interact with my people? And because you can think of your Facebook group as a big advertisement, if that's what you want to, that's casting the net wide, not being too specific. Or you can choose to be more specific and really build that audience. And then looking at how advertising is really business driven. You're in control about where your message is seen, by who gets to see it within the parameters of choosing in the algorithm and all of that, versus doing the longer, is it the slow boat to China? Is that the right name of it? But getting there, using more organic methods. And it's not necessarily that one is right or wrong. It's what fits your business, what fits your work style, what fits your personality. So let me skip to the next one. I kind of ran those two slides together. At the end of the day, we're in business to make money. Peter Drucker says, if every business's main purpose is to create customers. If you're not creating customers, you're not running a business. And so we want to keep that in mind. What is the end payoff that we want for our effort, and how do we want to go about that? And like I said earlier, I think that as business owners, it's smart to have a combination of organic and paid lead generation, if you will, content marketing, advertising, pulling that together, because that's really what it is, right? We're just trying to connect with new people, get in front of a new audience. Even looking at networking events, I've noticed that there's a lot more online networking opportunities. And there have been some where it's like, I just don't want to do this. I don't know. As an introvert, obviously networking is not at the top of my favorite list of things to do, but it's like, what? It's another great way to use advertising that is a low cost or no dollar cost investment, and you can walk away. I did a networking event last Friday with a brand new group, and I walked out of there with 5 calls and I closed 3 of them. And so, don't overlook being a part of those types of activities as being part of your advertising, even if it's a no dollar advertising opportunity or networking opportunity. So not everybody is willing or ready to invest in ads, depending where you are in your business. You might not have the budget yet. Maybe you've been burned by a bad ad campaign, or maybe you've just been scared to death by hearing horrific stories about how ad campaigns had failed. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay to be wherever you are on that spectrum. Um, it's just important to know where you're at, what your risk tolerance is, what your growth plan is, and are you hitting your goals with where you're at in your organic reach? Do you need to look at other ways to be able to do that more effectively? Um, Making sure that you have set the right set of expectations on when you think you can convert and get that ROI, regardless of whether you're looking at doing advertising or content marketing. You know, think about ads as being a sprint to get you to where you want to go versus content marketing being a marathon, right? It's a longer race, but you're still going to get to the finish line. And, just make sure that you know what those parameters are that you're working within. Are you feeling tired and you need to pull over and take a break? Do you need to do a little sprint and then go back to a longer run? Look at what that rhythm is for you, because having that right rhythm is going to make you feel more confident. And then um, think about the old adage that says it takes 7 times to touch someone before they're ready to buy from you. I read an article today that said 7 times within 18 months. And so that time frame really clicked for me, because oftentimes you're like, oh, 7 times quick, I'm going to turn those sales on right now. Not necessarily. It might need to be over a long period of time. Again, think about the nurturing process. Think about the difference between introverts and extroverts. One of my clients is a sales coach, and she was selling a mentorship program, and she was selling specifically to introverts. And so she did the Kelly Roach live launch method, and she went in and did, the first 4 days, open card. On day 4, day 5 through 9, she sold. Crickets, nothing. And she was just like totally freaked out. And she's like, I did everything right. I did all the things. And I said, I know you did. They needed more time. It was like 2 and 3 days after the cart closed, they came back and said, yeah, I want that. I think I need that. Is it too late? Can I still buy that? And she's like, what do I do? I said, you honor that price. You honor that price. We just learned something really important about your people. They need more time. And so when you think about that 7-time rule, if you're feeling frustrated, look at who your people are. Look at how they're processing. Look at how they're making their decisions. And maybe you need to set your expectation that it's going to take a longer sales runway to be able to get them to say yes. And as always, we want to look at what next steps can we take, right? Because we always want to be in action, and remember that imperfect action is better than no action. So make sure if you're not putting calls to action in your posts, that you start putting them in there. Offer that free consult, offer them a freebie of some sort. Get them used to clicking and saying yes, because then when you make your offer, again, it's just going to be easier. They're already trained to respond to you. Do some market research. Find out what your tribe wants from you. How do they want it delivered? And that way you can be much more targeted and intentional about what you're messaging. And then analyze what your performance is. If you're using ads or boosts of any kind, look at what's working. One of the things that Jim Edwards recommends is, if you haven't been boosting or advertising, look at your posts that are doing really well. What got the most likes and loves and shares and comments, and then use that as your first couple boosts and posts. And then once you see what's happening there, you can create more of that kind of post and incorporate it into your boosting strategy. And then As always, if you're looking at using a curated audience to grow your business and run ads to, so you can be in more control of who sees your ads and you want to know more about that, you can schedule a call with us. And I'd be happy to have one of my teammates share with you how that process works and what the benefits are and how it can help you grow and scale your business. And that's what I have for you guys today. So, do you have any questions or feedback?
I don't have any questions. Thank you. I always love that you're so thorough about everything. So thank you for that. Um, and yeah, just thank you for making the space for these lunch and learns. I definitely look forward to them every week. I'm probably signed up for every one this month.